Richard and Mildred Loving fought for interracial marriage in America by violating Virginia's Racial Integrity Act. The court case Loving v. Virginia changed laws and countless lives then and now. Loving v. Virginia was a court case dealing with interracial marriage. In 1958, Richard Perry Loving, a white man, and Mildred Dolores Jeter, a black woman, decided to get married. They lived in Caroline County, Virginia, but Virginia's Racial Integrity Act that prevented interracial marriage disabled them to get married in Virginia. They truly loved each other, and Virginia's law against interracial marriage wasn't going to stop them. Richard Loving and Mildred Jeter drove to Washington, D.C. to get married, because there was no law against interracial marriage there. A few weeks after they got married, they drove back to Virginia. In the early morning of July 11, 1958, 5 days after arriving back home, Sheriff Garnet Brooks and two deputies broke into their home. Both Richard and Mildred Loving were arrested and spent several nights in jail. They were released, but only under one condition. They were to leave the state of Virginia and not come back for 25 years. The Lovings obeyed instructions and moved to Washington, D.C. Over the years, Mildred gave birth to 3 children. They also made brief visits back to Virginia to visit family, but in 1963, the Lovings decided that they had had enough. The couple, despite the beginning of the civil rights movement, wrote a letter to Attorney General Robert Kennedy. They asked for his aid, hoping that he would accept the case. General Kennedy did not accept the case, but recommended the American Civil Liberties Union. The ACLU obtained the case, which provided hope for the Lovings. The 2 ACLU lawyers fought for the case, but failed in doing so. The judge strongly disagreed and didn't like the act that they were trying to pursue. Judge Leon M. Bazile said, "Almighty God created the races, white, black, yellow, Malay, and red, and he placed them on separate continents. And but for the interference with his arrangement, there would be no cause for such marriages. The fact that he separated the races shows that he did not intend for the races to mix." The 2 lawyers, Bernard S. Cohen and Philip J. Hirschkopf, took the case to the Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals. Soon thereafter, the case went to the United States Supreme Court. Arguments were held on April 10, 1967. The law forbidding interracial marriage in Virginia was in place because the state did not want to create any social problems. This law did not violate the 14th Amendment. That is why it remained. The legal group that was fighting for the Lovings argued that the state law didn't agree with the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. Between all the arguing, Richard Loving had a straightforward argument. He said, "Tell the court I love my wife, and it is just unfair that I can't live with her in Virginia." Soon thereafter this heartwarming statement, and after convincing and compromising, the High Court agreed without opposition in the favor of the Lovings on June 12, 1967. The passing of the case enabled the couple to finally return home and ended the law against interracial marriage. It was discussed toward the end of the case that Virginia's anti-miscegenation law completely contravened the Equal Protection Clause and the Due Process Law of the 14th Amendment and was unconstitutional. The Chief Justice, Earl Warren, said that the contradicting right of marriage because of race is directly subversive of the principle of equality at the heart of the 14th Amendment and removes the privilege of all citizens' liberty without due process of law. Many other happy events happened after the case was passed. Richard and Mildred Loving were able to build a house and raise their family in Caroline County, Virginia without any distress. Sadly, Richard Loving was killed at the age of 41 when he was hit by a car which was driven by a drunk driver in 1975. Mildred, who was in the car, lost eyesight in one eye. After Richard died, many people pressured Mildred to talk about the case and give out all of the information. Mildred did her best, only giving pristine information to few people. Unfortunately, Mildred Loving died on May 2, 2008 in Milford, Virginia at the age of 68. Little did she know that this big event would turn into an even bigger legacy. The Lovings took a stand by breaking the interracial marriage barrier. They got married because they loved each other, and even though not everyone approved of this act, they were still victorious. They fought down to the last bone and made a national change.